Yo, what's up? This is your boy, the number is Rah of the Main Event Mafia, aka Rah The Reflex, and I'm doing this video about liners, the myths and misconceptions about liners, and some of the questions. One of the biggest things that I've noticed since I've been barbering and doing cosmetology is the big arguments concerning what's the best liner to get and how to get the best from it. First off, it is a matter of preference, but it's also a matter of how well the consumer is educated on liners. Now, in front of you, you're seeing 4 of the liners that I have in my arsenal. I do have others. In front of you, you're seeing the Babyliss Pro FX 780. You're seeing the Andis Style Liner 2, the Wall 5-Star Razor Edger, and the Andis Original T-Edger. Now, I use each of these liners for very different purposes. So let's get into the argument, the myths, and some of the things that you may want to consider when you purchasing a liner. First thing, the 2 biggest arguments that there always seems to be when talking about liners is the size of the liner and the cutting ability of the liner. So let's break down the arguments. Size. Many times people argue my liners are too big, they're too bulky, or the liner is too small. Here's what I have to say about that argument. We're humans, and because we're humans, we come in different sizes. So since we come in different sizes, some of us are 5'2", some of us are 6'8". We got female barbers, you got male barbers. Not all of us have the same size hands. So do not buy a liner strictly based upon it's the popular liner or it's something the guy next to you has. Buy your liners based upon what feels right for you and what you use them for. So in my case, I have bigger hands. So because I have bigger hands, I might gravitate more toward a liner that has a bigger housing. Meaning that if it has a bigger housing, my hand can hold the liner better without feeling like I'm swallowing the liner completely up. So I'm going to lean more toward bigger liners such as the FX 780. I'm going to lean toward style liners. I may lean toward the T-Out liner or the GTX, the Wall Razor Edger, the Oster Taller. These liners have bigger housings. So my hand feels better holding it because my hand doesn't swallow up the liner. Now, if you have smaller hands, you may want to lean toward a smaller shaped liner. So you might lean more toward the Andis T-Edger, you might lean more toward the Wall Deep Corded Detailer, you might lean toward the Oster Teague, because these liners have smaller bodies and they have smaller cutting heads. So because they have smaller housing, your hand won't feel like the liner is too big. So it's not so much the liner, it's how you purchase the liner. Which brings us to the argument of cutting. The liner blade ain't hitting, or my liners are biting, they're too sharp. Here's what I have to say about that. Not all liners need to be zeroed out. Over the last maybe 20 years, 15 to 20 years, barbering has changed. And because barbering has changed, we are leaning more toward the crispy, sharp, symmetric line. We want them to look as sharp as possible. That's why we color block it, we razor line it. We want our lines to be super sharp. This wasn't always the case. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even in the early 90s, a lot of times you would see a good haircut, but they didn't have that super crispy line. They had more of a natural clean line. So because we done moved from natural clean line to sharp crispy line, you want your trimmer to accommodate that. Well, not all your clients want crispy lines. I have older clients as well as younger clients. My younger clients usually want a super sharp crispy line, but my female and my older clients may lean more toward just clean it up, and I want a natural line, but I don't want it to be super sharp because in their opinion it makes it look too artificial. So here's the thing. When buying a liner, consider what you're going to use the liner for and consider your clientele. If your clientele mostly is super sharp lines, then you want to get a liner that may come out the factory with a really crisp zeroed out blade, or you may want to zero it out. If you have a nice clientele that does not want those super sharp lines, then you may just leave it factory and don't zero it out. So we bring it to zeroing out your blades. A lot of times you may be cutting into the skin, or you're having problems with your blade because not everybody knows how to zero out their blades. I know this is something that is going to touch some people very sensitive, but a lot of times that you have problems with your line has nothing to do with the trimmer itself. It has to do with A, do you know how to zero out your blade? And B, what is your touch like when you're doing a line? Some people have a better touch when they're lining hair. So if they have a better touch, their lines can come out super crispy even if they didn't zero out the blade. And some people need to improve upon their touch. So even if you zero out the blade, you still won't get a crispy line because your touch is off. So play with your liners and get a feel of what's the best touch for the liner that you have. Improve your touch. Lift your hand up, lower your hand up, and find your sweet spot, your angle. Once you found your sweet spot and your angle, then learn how to zero out your blades. Everybody has gotten zero out crazy with the liners and with the clippers. You do not have to zero out every single liner and every single clipper that you have. You have people who are zeroing out their liners and clippers before they even use them. I use the analogy of a person who goes to a restaurant and orders food, and as soon as the food comes, they're dumping salt and pepper on it before they even taste it. Sometimes your liner and your trimmer might have came out the box perfect, and then you messed it up. So if you're going to zero out your blade, first learn how to zero out your blades. If you do not know how to zero out your blades, there are very detailed instructional videos on YouTube and other people's websites of barbers who know how to zero out the blades, who give pointers. Two of the barbers who happen to have some very good videos on this subject is a guy named Victor Moan, better known as Victor Barber, or Davita the Clipper Cut Queen. Check out their channels on YouTube, and you may get some good pointers on how to zero out your blade and how to improve your touch when it comes to doing your lineups. Also, if you are not sure on how to zero out your blade and you don't particularly like their methods or other people's methods, a lot of the clipper companies actually have little devices designed to help zero gap your blade. You might want to invest in it. I know Andis has one, Wall has one. I'm not sure if Oster has one, but I'm pretty sure they probably do. So find a zero gapper machine to zero gap it. Or you can also consider going to an authorized barber dealer who sells clippers, who does repairs, and ask them to zero gap it for you. Also, you might want to consider the sharpness of your blade. A lot of people, if the blade gets dull, they'll spend more money and go and buy a brand new blade when you could just simply go to a barber repair or a shop that does sharpening and have them sharpen the blade that you already have. It's much cheaper to sharpen a blade than it is to purchase another blade. So those are some of the pointers that I suggest when dealing with your trimmers and liners. You also may want to consider, finally, another issue, which is the debate of cordless versus corded liners. When you're buying a cordless liner, you're not buying it for the purpose of it having equal power to a corded liner. Because, in all honesty, a cordless liner and a corded liner may not have the same amount of power based on the simple premise that they do not get their current from the same source. A corded liner is getting its power from an outlet, so it's getting a current from the power cord. That's when we start talking about wattage and voltage, which we're not going to discuss in this video. While a cordless liner is getting its power from a lithium-ion battery or a nickel-cadmium battery. So a nickel-cadmium battery or lithium-ion battery may not produce the same amount of power that the power cord is going to produce because it doesn't give off the exact same amount of wattage or voltage. What you give up in wattage and voltage on a cordless liner, however, you're making up on maneuverability. If you do a lot of graphics, or if you're traveling, or you're a platform artist, or you're doing things of this nature, then a cordless liner actually benefits you more because you may not have access to a power outlet. So, and you may want that maneuverability. So when you go in to buy a cordless liner, don't always immediately assume that it's based upon the power as much as it's based upon maneuverability and practicality on those levels. So, this is the conclusion of this video. This is your boy, Anubis Rah The Reflex with Barber Lifestyle. Check us out if you're not on Barber Lifestyle on Facebook. Just go on Facebook, follow us at Barber Lifestyle, and check out my new channel, which is called The Modern Day Gentleman. I will be posting things daily on Modern Gentleman on Facebook. You can also hit me up on Facebook, Anubis Rah, Anubis Metro Exchange Rah. You can also hit me up on Instagram under the name Anubis Rah. That's ANUMBUSRAH. Signing off. Main Event Mafia, Chicago stand up. You know how I do. Barber salute, Barber love.
You're getting violated. The hip hop sound is well agitated. We'll never waste no time on a played out ego. So here's Busta Rhymes with the scenario.
Watch as I combine all the juice from the mind. Heal up, wheel up, bring it back, come rewind. Powerful impact, boom from the cannon. Now bragging, try to reap a mind. Just imagine, vocabulary.